Good afternoon to one and all. I am dealing with the course of Power Plant Engineering. In that, today's topic is cooling water systems. The outline of my presentation is necessity of cooling towers and cooling ponds, condenser water cooling system, types of cooling towers and cooling ponds. In that, first one is the cooling system. Even in today's many efficient steam plants, at least half of the energy input may be rejected as unavailable in the steam turbine exhaust. So, the main steam condenser performs the dual function of removing the heat rejected energy from the plant cycle and keeping the turbine back pressure at least to the lowest possible level. So this energy, rejected energy, must be returned to the atmosphere. The main condenser does by transferring the latent heat of exhaust steam to the water exposed to the atmosphere. This water is circulating as a cooling systems. So the cooling water requirement in an open system is of about 50 times the flow of the steam of the condenser. Even with the closed cooling system using cooling towers, the requirement for cooling water is also considerably as 5 to 8 kgs per kilowatt hour. This means 1000 megawatt station will require about 10,000 tons of circulating water per day, even the use of the cooling systems. So, this is the source of the cooling water chosen must be supplied to the required quantity of the cooling systems. So, the cooling systems may contain cooling water in the condenser may be of the following sources. First one, rivers, sea or canal or lake water system. So in this system, when the power station is situated on a back of the river or lake or other natural sources of water, the condenser water supply can be obtained directly from there, the water being discharged to the waste or back to the source. However, it is not always possible to locate central stations near the source of the supply, and it becomes necessary to use the same water over and over again by cooling it is suitable device. Such devices are commonly employed in the power stations are given below. Combined driver and cooling water system, cooling towers or spray pond systems. So types of cooling systems. Cooling systems are of two types, direct use of rivers or sea or indirect use or cooling ponds. So in direct use of rivers or sea, a large amount must be supplied to the coolant. And in cooling ponds, the cooling ponds are the simplest of the device for recooling the cooling water. A cooling pond consists of a large shallow ponds. So the depth of the cooling pond must be of about 1 meter only. So in this condenser, water from the condenser is sprayed through the nozzle over a pond of large area and cooling effects mainly due to evaporation from the surface of the water. In this system, sufficient amount of the water is lost by evaporating and windage. What is the necessity of cooling ponds and cooling towers? To absorb the heat from the steam, it is necessary to pre-cool the water coming out of the condenser before using again in a closed system. As with the increasing of temperature, pressure also increases. Means if we pre-cooling the water coming out from the condenser, again it can be used in a closed system. With the increasing of the temperature, pressure also increases. Condenser water cooling system. So cooling water systems are again broadly classified into three types. open cooling system, closed cooling system, mixed cooling system. So open cooling system is also known as one through cooling systems. So this is the open cooling system. So in the open cooling systems, so the steam exhaust from the turbine is sent into the condenser. So in the condenser, the cooling water is coming from the river, and this water should be filtered before it can be used, because if any impurities are there, the condenser will get lifespan will reduces. So this water, the water from the river must be sent into the condenser by using a pump. So after filtration, the pure cooling water is sent into the condenser. So the steam is exhaust from the turbines. So here the heat exchange between the cooling water and the steam. So the cooling water temperature get increases and the steam temperature get reduces. So the steam changes its latent phase and get converted into the hot water. So the hot water is sent into the again rivers or sea. So some of the condensate is sent into the feed water as a boiler by using a condensate pump. So this is the open cooling system. Next one is the closed cooling system. So in the closed cooling system, the stream from the exhaust stream from the turbine enters into the condenser. So for condensing the exhaust stream, we need a cooling water. So this cooling water is coming from the cooling tower. So the cool water is sent into the cooling water by using a water circulating pump. So there will be a exchange of the heat between the turbine and the cooling water. So steam gets converted into the hot water. Some of the hot water is condensate water is sent into the feed water to the boiler for increasing the efficiency. And the hot water which is coming from the condenser is again sent into the cooling towers. So in the cooling tower, air is passing through it. So there will be an exchange of heat between the air and the hot water. So the air temperature increases, hot water temperature get reduces. So it converts into the cooling water. So this cooling water is sucked into the condenser. So again a makeup water is required, and means some of the large amount of the water is required for the condenser. So this large amount can be sent from the water sources. So from the river source, the water can be collected and it is filtered, and again it is sent into the condenser. So both the water cooling water coming from the cooling tower and the natural sources can be used for the cooling water in the condenser. So the air temperature get increases after the exchanging of the heat. So the increased temperature of the hot water is sent into the atmosphere. So this is the closed cooling water system. Next one is the mixed cooling system. So in the mixed cooling system, it is the combination of both closed cooling system and so it is the combination of both open cooling system and the closed cooling system. So this part is the open cooling system. Here the open cooling system, this part we are taking, and in closed system we are using the cooling towers. So it is a combination of both cooling towers and the open systems. So the exhaust steam from the turbine enters into the condenser. For condensing the steam, we need a cool water. So this cool water is coming from the natural source, that is river. From the river, the water gets filtered by you. The river can be sent into the condenser by using a pump. So after condensating, the steam temperature get reduces and the cooling water temperature increases. So this cool water gets converted into the hot water. This hot water is again sent into the cooling tower. So the condensate which is coming from the condenser is sent into the feed water to the boiler by using a condensate pipe. So the hot water coming from the condenser is sent into the cooling tower. In the cooling tower, so for the reducing the temperature of the hot water, we are using the air. So air is sent into the cooling tower. So there will be exchange of the heat between the hot water and the air. The hot water gets converted into the cold water. This cold water is sent into the rivers or the sea. So the temperature of the air will increases after exchanging of the heat. So the increased temperature of the air is sent out to the cooling tower, and some part of the hot water is sent into the water directly discharged into the river. So this is the mixed cooling system. It is a combination of both water open cooling system and the closed cooling system. Next, factors affecting cooling towers. Some of the factors which influence the rate of heat dissipation from the cooling ponds, such as it depends upon the area and depth of the pond, temperature of the water entering into the pond, atmospheric temperature, wind velocity, relative humidity, shape and size of the cooling water nozzles. Next, types of cooling systems. Types of cooling towers. Cooling towers are broadly classified into three types. First one is the timber cooling system. Second one is the concrete cooling system. And next one is the spray cooling system. It is based on the construction of the material in which we are taking. So in the timber cooling systems, timber is used as a cooling towers. So this type of the cooling towers can be used for the small amount of the heat exchange. And next one is the concrete based cooling system. In the concrete based cooling system, it is the towers are made up of the concrete, and it has a large capacity of sometimes order 5 into 10 cube meter per hour, and it improves the draft and air circulation for between the water and the hot water and the air, and it increases the stability under air pressure, and the maintenance cost is also very low. And next one is the steel duct type. So duct type cooling towers are rarely in case of the modern power plants owing to their small capacity. So duct type cooling systems are broadly classified into two types: natural draught cooling towers and mechanical draught cooling towers. So cooling towers with the warmth of steel duct discharged into the condenser and fed to the cooled water back to the condenser. So this is the basic principle of the cooling towers. So types of cooling towers. So cooling towers are again broadly classified into two types, as we previously discussed: natural draught cooling towers and mechanical draught cooling towers. Mechanical draught cooling towers are again broadly classified into two types: forced draught cooling towers and induced draught cooling towers. In that, first one is the natural draught cooling tower. So in this type of tower, the hot water from the condenser is pumped. The hot water from the condenser is pumped into the troughs by using a nozzle situated at the bottom. So sprays or troughs, the water falls in the form of the droplets into the pond situated at the bottom of the tower. So the air entering into the cooling towers from the air opening provided near the base and takes the heat of the falling tower. A concrete of hyperbolic cooling tower is explained here. So the cooling concrete base consists of reinforced concrete shells, and they are eliminated, in which it eliminates some of the dust particles in the air which is coming from the exchanging towers. So this is the diagonal columns in which the exchanging of the heat takes place. So the cooling water can be passed from the condenser by using this pump. So there will be exchange of the heat between the hot water from the condenser and the air. So the temperature of the air get increases, and the hot air coming out can be sent from the natural draught cooling tower based on the density, and the cooling water can be circulated to the condenser. So this is the concrete hyperbolic cooling towers. And advantages of the natural draught cooling towers are: it is a power saving and no power consumption to induced airflow or flow, and it is an eco-friendly. So here we are not using in a fan due to the density due to the air density difference only, the air flows from down to top. So there is no power consumption and it is a eco-friendly, no mechanical noise because no fan here we are using, safety for the operation, no recirculation as the plume is rejected at the high level, and limited plot area is required, limited maintenance is required, payback period between 8 to 16 years depending on the several factors. So this natural drought cooling tower can be used up to a period to the 8 to 16 years. Next, disadvantages of the natural drought cooling towers are high capital cost because here we are using the concrete. Performance varies with the seasonal changes, large overall dimensions that causes difference with the area aestheticals and requirement of the large areas of for tower installation. Means for the overall dimensions could be cause some of the difficulties with the areas and requires a large areas for the tower installation. So these are the disadvantages of the natural drought cooling systems. And in mechanical drought cooling systems, so mechanical drought cooling systems are again broadly classified into two types, induced drought and forced drought. In that here I am explaining about the forced drought cooling tower. So this is the diagram for the forced drought cooling tower. So in these towers, the drought air for the cooling tower is produced mechanically by using the forced drought fans. So these towers are usually built in cells or the units. So here the cells or units are there in the form of the packings, depends upon the number of the cells used. So it is similar to the natural towers. So as far as it interior construction is considered, but the sides of the towers are closed because of the fans are used and from an air and water tight structure. Except for an air openings at the base of the inlet, fresh air and the outlet at the top for the exist of air and vapors. So here the hot water coming from the condenser, there will be a package through which the air is passed through this. So from this passing air, the will be exchange of the heat, then the hot water can be converted into the cold water. So this cold water can be collected downwards and the hot air passes through these eliminators and can be collected to the atmosphere, and there will be spray eliminators in which we are eliminating some of the dust particles, and the water from the cooling water collected in the forced draught can be sent into the condenser for the recycling process. So this is the forced draught cooling system. Here the inducer fans, here the inducer fans are we are using number of inducer fans are there to increases the efficiency of the fan. Next, forced draught cooling tower. Some of the advantages are more efficient, problem of blade erosions are avoided, fan is located at ground so more safe, vibrations and noise are less as mechanical equipments are set on the solid foundations. So disadvantages are possibility of recirculation of hot humid exhaust air coming from the cooling towers. Means there will be a possibility of the hot air coming from the so there will be here the hot gases are sent into the atmosphere. There will be a recirculation of the hot water because fans are used. So again this hot water will send into this tower, which reduces the efficiency of the cooling tower. Next, fan sizes is limited up to 4 meters. The possibility of the ice formation on the blades in the cooling weather. When the temperature is very less, there will be a formation of the ice on the blades will be a possible. So these are the disadvantages of the forced draught cooling systems. So these are the differences between the natural drought cooling system and the forced drought cooling system based on the different principles. So if we take the size and shape, in the natural drought cooling systems, it may be of 125 meters height and 100 meters diameter and has a hyperbolic shape. If we consider the forced drought cooling system, the shape is of about 15 meters height and the thousands of the meters in length and has a rectangular box shape. So in natural drought, it is a hyperbolic, and it's a in forced drought, it is a long rectangular box are used. So the initial cost of the natural drought is very high. The initial cost of the forced drought is half of the cost of the natural drought cooling systems. So it is the advantage of the forced drought cooling systems. And operation cost is very less. Here the operation cost is very high because we are using the fans and packings are used. Maintenance cost is very low, and here the maintenance cost is very high because it's so low. Large amount of the power is needed for the fans to run, and the packings are required. Packings maintenance also is very high. Water loss, the water loss is very less in the natural drought cooling systems, whereas in the forced drought cooling system water loss is very more, and the lifespan of the natural drought cooling system is more, and its lifespan is 8 to 16 years, whereas the lifespan of the forced drought cooling system is very less. And next one is the induced drought cooling system. So in the induced drought cooling towers, this is an example for the induced drought cooling towers. So the basic between the induced drought cooling towers and the mechanical forced drought cooling towers is, here the air is sent in the only one direction, whereas in the induced drought cooling system, air is sent in both the directions. So the this induced drought cooling system, the air is situated, the mechanical drought tower with a fan is there. So the fan is there at the, so the induced fan is situated at the top, which pulls the air through the tower. So this fan induces the hot moisture air from the discharge. This produces the lower entering of the air and the high entering of the air velocity, reduces the possibilities of recirculation in which discharged air flows back into the intake. So the fan or the fins arrangements are known as the draw throughs. So this is the counter tower, means previous forced draught, the fans are situated, at the entry of the air. So in the induced drought, the fans are situated at the top because for the reducing the disadvantage of recirculation of the hot air. Sorry. So this is the induced drought cooling systems. So the fan is situated at the top for the removing of the hot air, and the drift eliminators are there. So here the water distribution is there, and the hot water is sent here. So there will be exchanging of the water heat between the water and the cooling distributor, and the air is passed through this, and there will be some of the exchangings are there. So here the exchanging surface of the cooling water, sorry, air, cooling water and the hot water. So this is the basin. So after the cooling is exchanged, the hot water can be converted into the cold water, at which this will be collected at the basin. From the basin, the cold water is sent into the condenser, which is used as a feeder. And advantages of induced drought cooling system are: cooling tower comes in contact with the driest air and warmest water coming in contact with the moist air. So the cooling water coming in contact with the hot air or directly in contact, the recirculation of the hot humid air is not a major problem. Large fan sizes are not required. So lowest first cost must be reduced the pump capacity, capable of cooling through a wide range. And disadvantages are not economical up to the capacity of 50 1 lakh sorry 15,000 liters of water per minute only. So this is the main disadvantage. Higher power motor is required to drive the fan compared to the forced drawer. So here more capacity of the motor can be used. Maintenance cost is very high. Fan bearing should needed to be cooled. So the terms used in the cooling towers are fill. Fill means the hot water coming from the condenser is sprayed through the nozzle over a series of the horizontal bars. This is called as the fills or packings. In the previous diagrams we seen here the packings. So these are the packings or the fills. So here the packings or fills are used for the hot water condenser is sprayed through the nozzle. Next one is the drift. When the air flows from the bottom to the top of the cooling tower, it carries fine droplets along with the water. These fine droplets of the water are called as the drifts. means the air which is coming from the bottom of the tower and it moves to the top of the cooling tower. So it carries a fine water droplets along with the air. So these water droplets are called as a drift. Next, approach. It is defined as the difference between the exit temperature of cooling tower and the wet bulb temperature of the ambient air is called as an approach. Next, cooling range. So how much amount of the cooling we are calculated can be calculated in terms of the cooling range R. So it is the difference in the temperature of the incoming cool warm water and the exit temperature of the water. So this difference is represented by the letter R. So the incoming cool warm water is represented by the letter Tc1 and the exit temperature of the cooling water is represented by the letter Tc2. So if the warm water inlet temperature is more when compared to the exit temperature of the cool water. Next one is the cooling ponds. So the cooling ponds is the one of the simplest method of cooling the condensed water. This method is much less efficient than the cooling towers. So types of cooling ponds. Cooling ponds are again broadly classified into the three types: natural or directed flow cooling pond, single deck and double deck cooling ponds, open and large fence cooling ponds. So in that first one is the natural pond or natural flow cooling tower pond is explaining here. So this is the simplest form of the device for recooling the cooling tower. So a cooling pond consists of a large hollow pond in which the hot water is comes in contact from the condenser with the atmospheric air. So in this effect is more than the non-directed cooling systems. In this pond, there are no sprays or other devices are employed in these systems. So the operating cost of the natural flow cooling pond is very less. And in this case, the amount of the cooling water is to be cooled is very large, as in case of the big power plants. So the cooling ponds will be very large. For large power plants, therefore, spray ponds can be used. So here the cooling water coming from the condenser is directly contact with the air. So there will be exchange of the heat between the air and the hot water. The cold water is collected at the bottom and it is sent into the condenser for the recycling process. Next one is the directed flow cooling pond. So in the directed flow system, the hot water coming from the center from the condenser is enters in the middle. So middle of the condenser, the hot water enters. So this channel has reaching the far end devices. There will be two circuits. So here one first circuit is there. Here second circuit is there. So the director of the baffle valves transfers the pond several times before the unit at the top. So at the intake point, the water gets more time and passes more surface area. So and the cooling water can be achieved. Means here the hot water coming from the condenser can be passes through these directions and the air from this direction can be passes. So there will be So the hot water passes from this direction. So there will be exchange of the heat between them. So the cool water is collected in this direction and is sent into the condenser. Next one is the single deck cooling pond. So this is a single deck cooling pond. So in a single deck arranged system, there will be some elevation of the spray ponds. So it is an effective cooling system than the double deck cooling system. So in this system, the warm water received from the condenser is sprayed through the nozzles and over a large pond surface area, and the cooling effect is lost by evaporation and the windage. By evaporation and the windage, the hot water get condensed into the cool water. This cool water is sent into the condenser again for the recycling process. This is a single deck cooling system. So here the spray bonds are there. The hot water is passed through it. So there will be exchange of between heat exchange between the air and the hot water. Then the hot water temperature will reduces into the cold water, and this cold water is again get recycled. Thank you.